Might not live to talk about it. Okay, that was a brief. I was able to catch my breath thanks to the puppy. So it has for sales. This is a small mill, but it's a robust mill. It is more like a cylinder. Some of the younger mills are more conical. This one is not so conical. We got it. You may ask, particular thing is about my 76 musicians that I've tied myself. I'm referring to the clay pots. When the wind is stronger, they really give out some interesting sounds. For any musicians that are here, I know nothing about music, but it's quite interesting. It really settles you a bit. We are located in the Serra da Moreira, and if you look down to my right, there's a beautiful valley, and we're surrounded by hills. And this is a geography lesson that I usually give the kids. But we all know what happens when it rains, right? The water trickles down to the rivers. What do you think they have down by the rivers related to mills? Water mills. So in this whole area here, studying the topographical maps, going back to 100 years ago or further, there were 23 water mills. And you have the opportunity to visit one today, and I really encourage you. It is not in such good state as this, but I believe some of the townspeople are going to recuperate it and put it back to work. Maybe next year you'll be able to visit, and you might even have some bread made down there. Unfortunately, at this time of the season here, sometimes the wind is, it's coming today. We have this beautiful weather because it's coming from the south. Last night it was coming from the north, from the ocean, so it was a bit cooler. So it's great to be out here, but it's not pretty. Do you have any questions before we go inside?
So what was this used to mill? It was used to mill something, was it?
Cereal.
Cereal, yeah.
So, barley, wheat, rye, corn, and corn.
Okay.
Please note that corn is a new cereal in Europe. It's about 500 years old. Some people, we genetically cannot digest cornbread at times. When you're making cornbread, you basically have to cook the flour first. It's always made with hot flour, with hot water. And when you're making regular bread, it's with luke water. I always like to throw a little bit out there.
Interesting.
For those that just joined us, I'll go through, we did the first part, and I'm going to go inside. You'll wait. I do not have the ability to offer you some suntan lotion.
That's okay.
But enjoy the weather for 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to go inside. Please be careful. I'm going to with a bigger mill than I do. He's got 2 stones, but it is a more recent mill. So you're going to stay against the wall, please. Be careful with your head. Right over this, right here, and we're good. The puppy's going to be fine. So now and then you'll stop because there's no wind, and when it starts because, well, there's wind. So you remember we were talking about, I'm not sure if we spoke about the weather vane. On top of the windmill, there's a weather vane, right? So, and that is the only one in Portugal that exists like that. In typical mills, the weather vanes are a rooster. This was a rooster with the silhouette of a person pointing.
Yes, we saw.
It was my grandfather that designed it. It's his own special design. The original one is downstairs because we retired that guy, and we put a young one up there that is a stainless steel. So if you look up to the top, there's a star, and below the star there's an arrow. That identifies the direction of the wind. If you go outside, I would say that Grandpa's pointing outside in that direction right now. Okay? So what happens, what does the miller use that for? The miller uses the canopy on top. Remember it said this rotates? It has 19 wheels. Okay? The wheels, these wheels are out of polyester. the wheels used to be out of wood, so, and there's, what would happen is the wood would deteriorate. So when we restored it, we put wooden wheels in, but then we exchanged them. So using that come along, this piece right here, I'm able to rotate the canopy in the direction of the wind. So the miller will look up on the top, and the mast, this big piece here, okay, he'll point it that way. I think Manuel's going to change it a little bit. So yesterday when I was here, the wind was coming from the north. So this, here we go. See?
Oh, wow.
Look up, shot my. It's not. He's actually a very strong guy. Before 67-year-old. Well, no, there's 77. No way.
So you have to manually.
Yes.
When the wind changes, you manually
Yes.
move it. Oh, okay.
Daqui por mais 2 meses é 68.
Yeah. 2 months from now, he's going to be 68. So Manuel's, he's a great man to have around. And he's really trying to, yeah, it's force. I told you he's a strong man. Hard to control him, though. So the miller's job when he would come to work, as he would approach, he would look at the direction of the wind.
Yeah, and know where to put the...
He would actually know the night before where the wind was, looking at the cloud formation. Where, like my old man, he was a cool guy in regards to this stuff. He was able to say, I would say, Dad, we're going to go up to Mill tomorrow. He says, no, tomorrow you go to the beach. The day after tomorrow, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting. And so all these wives' tales or traditional tales that in regards to the wind and things like that. So I'll give you a little. So the mast, exactly like the mast of a ship, that has secondary masts that the sails are tied to. The mast picks up the force of the wind that transmits it to this cogwheel. The cogwheel to this other one here, and this piece rotates the running stone. Running because it's moving.
Yeah.
The bedstone is down here. Okay. And this is kind of a granite. The milling stone for the wheat is a limestone, softer. Corn goes in, comes out of here. Right now it's not very fine. We have very little wind. So to make the flour finer, we use that piece there to lower the running stone so it's touching, and it'll give you the flour, the density of the flour, the softness should be the same as the softness of your earlobe. So if you pick up your index finger and lightly, you say it is soft. So this was my father's.
That's his test.
Yeah, so this is good if you want to make, Portuguese we call papas.
Bit more like breadcrumbs.
Or like oats.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so it's kind of rough.
Coat.
Great to make polenta.
I was going to say
Okay,
polenta.
a little
It
bit
looked like
more.
polenta.
In the States, they call it corn grit,
Ah.
right? Or if you want to use it as a batter, or just if you want to make chicken or something, and you roll it on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
so yeah. It'll come out of here. The miller would put it into the bag. Miller's form of payment was there was no money exchanged. So he used to take a commission, a percentage off the weight. So if you had 100 kilograms, you'd get 90 kilograms of flour. You'd keep the 10 kilograms of seed. And then yes, he would then sometimes would sell. There were situations where there'd be an exchange of money, but in small towns, a lot of people were very poor, but they needed the bread. So the miller was an important member of the community. He was highly respected. Millers, some of them were very good carpenters, or they used to work metal. Like in my grandparents and my great-grandparents, they had in their watermill a blacksmith shop. They had a carpentry shop. These pieces, they would make it themselves.
Wow.
And they would do their own repairs, because to hire a carpenter was very expensive. So those carpenters were journeymen, where they would go stay in one town.
We'd have
Yes.
gypsies, wouldn't we, do that? Yeah.
And that happened throughout Europe. The same thing when they were building cathedrals, the master masons would be there for 40, 60 years. There'll be 2 generations, and as they move from town to town. That's as far as I go with explanations. Any questions? I told you about the 19 wheels, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done loads. It's fascinating, really.
Kind of interesting. I encourage you to go down to the town, look at the watermill. You're going to find 2 stones like this. Fortunately, the water wheels are not there, but I think maybe next year, functionally. We're trying to stimulate people to take an interest. So I belong to an international society, TIMS, the International Molinology Society. These guys here. And I wear a picture of my windmill, of this silhouette, and I wear the town shirt. I am a Benfica fan, for those that don't know. But, so next week, next Sunday, a week from Easter Sunday, please feel free to join us for lunch. The funds, it's I think 12 year or 50 years, I believe. And you're gonna have, it's codfish, homemade bread, the smashed potatoes, and the bread is cornbread on the plate with lots of olive oil and garlic, and wine is included. And the purpose is we're raising funds for, I'll say it as a North American deal, Meals on Wheels. So there's a service that is provided to the local community, to the elderly, or those people that are, they're at home, they can't get out, where twice a day they bring them their food. If you're bedridden, they'll take you out of bed, they'll give you the medication. Some of us are very privileged, and this is why I started doing this, to give back to society, to the community. So please join us. Whatever they ask is, it goes back for wheelchairs. They have 14 people on the road. They have 7 vans with 2 people in each van, dispensing the food and doing that kind of service. Anyway, thank you for coming to Hipólito's mill. I would ask you, if you'd be so kind, to write something in our logbook.
Yeah.
Be creative. Thank you.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you very much.
So when you go down, what I always do, I always kind of just put myself up against the wall.